Okay, Anatomy of a Hit, episode 5, live in the studio with my man Kirk Pell from BFAB Records. And as I understand, the name is changing a little bit.
It is. We're changing it from, well, we as in me. I'm changing it from Benedictions, formed around Benedict, to Soldiers of God's Army.
Okay.
I came up with that name when I was like 15 or 16 when I was starting this whole thing.
Okay.
And I was like, gotta have a logo, I was young. I was
Right.
like, everything has a logo, so I had to
Right.
have a logo and something to remember me by. And I made that in a time where I was like being bullied. People were bitter to me because I was doing the music thing and stuff like that, so it fit. And so now when I think about it and people ask me about it, it kind of leaves not only a bad taste, I feel like, in their mouth, but mine, like, because it kind of sounds like it reminds me of a worse time in my life.
I understand.
It's like a bad omen. So I'm changing it up to make it more, I mean, it still fits me, like it's the truth now. It's just a fresh start
Okay.
in a better direction.
Okay. So, tell me about where you're from.
I am from Rising Sun in Cecil County.
Okay. That's a long way. It's a long way from Baltimore City. First of all, I want to thank you for even coming here because it's a very long way. So, it wasn't like it was
absolutely.
around the corner.
Honored to be here.
Okay, I'm glad to have you
very happy
here.
to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So, are there a lot of people in Rising Sun doing music, or?
I mean, so different areas, obviously there's music everywhere, but different areas are very different in style, culture, and what they do. My area is mostly like country,
Okay.
like bluegrass,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay.
My dad, I come from a musical family. My dad is in a band
Okay.
called the Graceman. He does bluegrass and gospel.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of that, but there's not a lot of people that do like the production,
Okay.
the engineering, the like writing, and especially hip hop and rapping, because
Okay.
it's mostly country out there.
I understand. Tell me about your influences musically.
You'd probably expect me to say something like Eminem, but really when I started it wasn't even music. Like I believe it or not, when I was in like elementary and middle school and stuff, didn't have a lot of friends. I was bullied here and there, and so I wrote. And then my cousin and he introduced me to like hip hop.
Okay.
So we started like just as a fun thing to do between me and him. We'd write verses and we'd call each other and like spit them to each other and everything. And then eventually like my writing was like, well, what if I mixed the two?
Right.
I tried it, and then when I did and I started like rapping and stuff, I started messing with a producer who was also a DJ, more so a DJ. And obviously I was like 16 in high school. I didn't have the money to pay for studio time or anything.
Okay.
So then that's where I was like, I just got to do it myself.
Okay.
So then I started learning how to produce and stuff like that.
Okay. What software are you using?
I use FL for production.
Okay.
I record through FL sometimes, like most of the time. Sometimes I use FL, or not, same thing. Pro Tools.
Okay.
I use Pro Tools. I have Logic Pro X. I'm learning to use that.
Okay.
So I'm working on being more diverse because some of my stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty talented. I mean, you're like a quadruple threat. You're singing, you're rapping, you're writing, you're producing, you're engineering. I mean, you're doing it all. So, I mean, at some point, they got to recognize talent, at some point. So, who are you working with right now? Are you working with any other artists?
I have a few artists that I would like to pull in on some projects of my own.
Okay.
That are close friends of mine that are very talented.
Okay.
And but other than that, as far as like people doing their own projects, not really. I don't want to make it too much business and work. It's,
I understand.
when it becomes work, you don't enjoy it as much.
And in this business, it can become work really fast.
Oh yeah.
Really fast.
Oh yeah, overnight.
Overnight, it can become work. Okay, so right now, as I understand, you told me you were using Free Loops, and you're experimenting with a couple of different DAWs. What did you start out with?
I started off with a Toshiba laptop that my mom had used, and that she got a new one, and I took it. And by the time I got it, the viruses were more than you could count. So the thing was slow as you couldn't imagine.
So let's talk about some of the songs that you've released.
1, 2, 3, 4 is a song that is about basically me growing up, turning 20 years old, and realizing that my parents, who used to nurture and baby me and help me through life, obviously as a kid gets older, not so much, you know. And
Alright.
Castle is on the project file. It's called The Return, but it's actually called Castle because I'll start a beat and name it something that makes me remind me of the beat, and then I'll write to it and it'll be something different. But Castle, that is about basically how like the studio and music is my escape.
Okay.
And I cover a lot about my music in that song and about me in that song on a more deeper scale. Like the chorus is like, there's a place not far from here where I run to hide, and that's my studio. My studio is literally right across the street, so like it sounds very deep, but it's actually very simple.
Okay.
So
there's a place not far from here where I run to hide and lock reality outside. If you find your way through the halls, no worries, I'm here not because I'm lost. Welcome to my castle.
Take this beat as an example of how I deal with my stress on a daily basis. How do I face it? Instead of coping at the bottom of a bottle, I just man up and take it. Take it like you're gonna take the song and put it on your
About
playlist.
the state of the music industry as a whole right now.
that is a very wide question to answer, but the best way I could answer it is I think it's a beautiful thing and I think it's a great thing, but I think at the same time it's a cursed blessing.
Okay.
So with everything going on, there is a lot of bad stuff. I mean, like obviously with it being so easy to get into, I think one of the biggest topics that a lot of people talk about when this question gets brought up is like the trash music that's coming out nowadays that's flooding the internet and stuff like that, and completely shutting out like the independent and very talented, you know what I mean? Me personally, in my opinion, if you have the power of influence on a crowd, you should never abuse that. And you should use that in a positive way. So with the violence and putting down women and stuff like that, I disagree with all that. But I mean, like I said, everybody, no two are the same, so everybody looks at it different. So I'm wrong in someone's eyes, in mine I'm right.
And last question. If you had to give advice to a young up-and-coming artist or producer that was trying to get into this business, what would you say?
I would say, A, your biggest enemy is yourself.
Okay.
You are your biggest obstacle.
Okay.
A lot of people are afraid of failure. A lot of people are afraid of taking a wrong path or a wrong step. I lost a lot of money.
Okay.
I took a lot of wrong steps. I took a lot of setbacks.
Yeah.
But I'm slowly working my way up. Like, and my thing is the biggest thing that I've learned is you gotta put yourself out there and you gotta take the step.
Okay. Good. All right. So you have it. Episode 5, Anatomy of a Hit. In studio for man Kurt Powell, SOGA, Soldiers of God's Army. Look out for him. Very, very talented young man. I'm telling you ahead of time. Look out for him. All right,
Thank you
man.
very much.
Thanks for coming by.
Absolutely.
All right.
So